2, 1, go. Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video, folks. Today, after the Bahrain Darts Masters, where Michael van Gerwen blades to win a Bahrain Darts Masters title, and the Challenge Tour about to get underway, as is Tommy Lishman and Joe Hunt share the spoils at the Winmore Challenge Tour. Gets underway in Milton Keynes on Friday, but the Premier League starts to begin. After a frantic FA Cup action, of course, with the biggest shocks including Macclesfield beating Crystal Palace by Crystal Palace, of course. Right, we're setting up for a big weekend, including Manchester Derby, of course. Before you get into the YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. Right, first up, the Manchester Derby is always fascinating and worthwhile watching. It is even more so the case this time round as Michael Carrick takes the Regans again at Old Trafford, following the second of Ruben Amorim, and Daniel Fletcher was given the job on a short of a minor irritated basis, and he's now replaced by Michael Carrick in the longer term, short term capacity, which is completely normal way of running a football club. Manchester United remain a mess off the pitch despite an improvement are some way off where they wanted to be too. The Red Devils only have a 14-game season to worry about after their FA Cup third round defeat to Brighton. As Manchester City are some ways of their historically relentless themselves under Pep Guardiola. They are still capable of throwing some woeful performance, but they head into the derby of a back of excellent form in the last couple of months. They managed to eventually ease to a victory over Newcastle United at St James's Park for the first leg of their EFL Cup semi-final in midweek, extended their unbeaten run to unlucky 13 matches across all competitions. So, Manchester City began the calendar year with 3 successive draws against Sunderland, Chelsea and then Brighton. They have therefore driven from the league leaders Arsenal, but there is a fair bit of pressure on this one. But with Bruno Fernandes and Mateus Cunha, as well as potential Brian Mbeumo, United have a lot of individual talent to pose a consistent threat against the often valuable City side. The visitors have remained to be firm favourites for this one in Salford. I'm going for Man United 1, Man City 2. And then, next up, let's go to Anfield, of course. Liverpool versus Burnley. Liverpool have found some form in terms of results, albeit they remain fairly underwhelming as the Reds welcome a struggling Burnley side to Anfield this week. Arne Slot has the pressure ratcheted up on him after sacking of Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid, but the Dutchman is easing it a little bit. What is now an 11-match unbeaten run of form across all competitions, all belted, has been quite underwhelming. The Reds most recently hammered along League One side Barnsley by 4-1 at Anfield in the third round of the FA Cup last Monday, courtesy of goals from Dominic Szoboszlai, Jeremy Frimpong, Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike. Burnley are in immense pressure down in the bottom 3 and relegation places in the Premier League, but the Clarets did manage to humiliate Millwall by 5-1 in a relatively surprising cup drubbing at Turf Moor last weekend. In the Premier League, their most recent outing saw them shared a 2-2 draw with Manchester United in their third draw in 4 matches in the league, but they have extended their winless run of form to 12 matches. Right. Their 11-match unbeaten run has included an FA Cup win against Barnsley, as well as draws with Sunderland, Leeds United twice and Fulham, as well as victories against West Ham and Wolverhampton Wanderers. Point being, and it hasn't been the most impressive or convincing. That said, they now face another side that fall into that category, and extending to 12 without a loss appears likely on Merseyside. And I'm going for a Liverpool win, 3-0. 3-0. Right. Chelsea versus Brentford. New manager Chelsea, Liam Rosenior's first Premier League game in charge of Chelsea. It's a trickier West London derby against an informed and high-flying Brentford at Stamford Bridge this weekend. Rossini took charge of Chelsea about a week and a half ago. Oversaw 5-1 demolition of the Championship outfit Charlton Athletic at the Valley in the third round of the FA Cup last weekend. In his second game, but the Blues scrambled to a 3-2 loss to Arsenal in the first leg of their EFL Cup semi-final at Stamford Bridge in midweek on Wednesday. And that was fairly poor performance in which the result flattered them a little bit. And Brentford, despite seeing chaos over the summer, Brentford have been brilliant this season, and what is Keith Andrews' first managerial role as the Bees begin the weekend's round of fixtures, sitting just outside of the top four. The Bees extend their unbeaten run to form to 6 matches across all competitions with a comfortable 2-0 defeat of the Championship crisis club Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough in the FA Cup third round last weekend. Chelsea have been quite entertaining in the early days of Rossini area, with 11 goals coming there, 2 matches thus far. Rossini has perhaps lacked the control thus far that he craved in both Hull City and Strasbourg. Brentford don't want to control to their direct and aggressive ability to stream forward with the likes of Igo, Thiago and Kevin Shade in particular working very well for them. Brentford are efficient and will cause problems for the hosts, but I think Chelsea will win 2-0, somewhere around there. Right. Leeds versus Fulham at Allen Road. Leeds United have enjoyed an excellent run of form in the last couple of months. Has extended struggles now welcome to reality, informed some Fulham side to Allen Road. Both teams are in good form as well. Daniel Farke was under pressure at Leeds United at the start of the season, but the former Norwich City boss overseeing an impressive run of form that is pushing them inching further away from the bottom through relegation places trouble. Yorkshire-based outfit coming into this one on the back of behind 3-1 defeat of Derby County at Pride Park in the FA Cup third round last weekend, meaning they have suffered just 1 defeat in their last 9 matches across all competitions. Marco Silva has been under a bit of pressure at Fulham, but if he reports were to be believed in the autumn, but with his contract at Craven Cottage up in the summer, but the Portuguese is now enjoying an impressive recent run of form as they push into the top half. The Cottagers also came from behind last week as they defeated Middlesbrough in the Cup last weekend, continuing their own excellent form, extending their unbeaten run for form to 6 matches, but just 1 loss in their last 8 games. Right, Daniel Farke has switched the assistant at Leeds, and he is definitely helping them. They appear to more control at the back, but also able to be more proactive and threatening when attacking. Fulham will head to Allen Road, seeking to exploit the hosts potentially over the excitement of them having home advantage and confidence at home, and it should lead them quite fun for the neutral in Yorkshire. So I'm going for a 2-2 draw. Right. Sunderland are one of the surprise packages in the Premier League this season as the Black Cats now take on the Crystal Palace side. They are under pressure on their side. After a heavy summer of spending, Sunderland begins this weekend's round of fixtures truck inside the top half of the table with just 5 defeats thus far, despite losing so many players to the African Cup of Nations of late. The Black Cats managed to edge past Everton on penalties in the third round of the FA Cup at the Hill Dixon Stadium last weekend. Robin Rolos saved all 3 of the Toffees penalties to eventually give Sunderland what was a deserved victory. And Crystal Palace coming into this one, arguably the biggest upset in the history of the FA Cup, as the holders of the competition scrambled by a 2-1 loss to Macclesfield of the National League North last weekend. The Eagles have started this season extremely well, but Oliver Glasner is now becoming increasingly frustrated that loss to Mackay extended their current winless run of form to matches across all competition. Mark Gill, who signed between Man City or Liverpool, but as a Liverpool fan, I'm very disappointed to see Mark Gill going to Manchester City. Right, some good news, some big breaking news that Oliver Glasner will be leaving until the end of the season, but as a Palace manager. And Sunderland are getting their players back slowly from the AFCON, and they will begin to be able to be a little proactive once again. They have ensured they have remained difficult to beat and absentees. Crystal Palace head into the stadium like lacking fluency, and they often struggle, as was the case last week, to break teams down at that back. This is unlikely to be a high scoring encounter, was the case in the reverse fixture at Selhurst Park, in which finishes goalless, but I'm going for home advantage to say Sunderland 2-1. And then this is a fascinating London derby between arguably two of the most under pressure managers in the Premier League, as Tottenham Hotspur face West Ham. Tottenham Hotspur coming into this one of yet another loss as they scrambled to a 2-1 defeat at home to Aston Villa last weekend in the third round of the FA Cup, continuing to heap pressure on the former Brentford boss Thomas Frank. Spurs supporters has become immensely delusioned with Frank, and at the time of writing it, and it appears as though he doesn't have long left. Spurs have won just 11 of their 31 matches across all competitions so far this season. Nuno Espirito Santo does remain in suits at West Ham United and has been backed with some big money signings such as Paolo and Tati Castelos or whatever I don't know. But their form has been woeful as they sit firmly in the bottom three and relegation places. But the Hammonds did overcome the Championship opposition Queen Park Rangers after extra time in the third round of the FA Cup last week, courtesy of a winner scored by the aforementioned at the London Stadium. Right. This is a big rivalry between two sets of supporters that dislike each other quite a lot, but perhaps two sets of supporters that is dislike of the home team. And a little bit more right now. Tottenham have a very little ability to get the ball forward and plenty proactive, while West Ham lack any real quality to do so either. As a result, this is unlikely to be very entertaining for the neutral, but other than the draw potentially after all, whenever the result comes, I think Spurs will win it 2-0 just. Right. Nottingham Forest will face Nottingham Forest are in desperate form as they chase points now, and with the visitors of league leaders Arsenal to the City Ground on Saturday evening. Nottingham Forest coming into this one on the back of a humiliation of the FA Cup last weekend as they suffered elimination at the hands of the Championship side, Wrexham, having been outplayed before losing on penalties after a slightly fight back. But Forest have now just one victory in their last 6 matches across all competitions, with that one the fortress circumstances away at fellow strugglers West Ham United about a week and a half ago. Arsenal at the top of the table, in both in the Premier League and the Champions League, and the latter restarting again this coming midweek. They are fighting on 4 fronts, FA Cup and EFL Cup runs too. The Gunners came from behind to hammer Portsmouth by 4-1 at Fratton Park in the FA Cup last weekend, before a 3-2 over Chelsea in the first leg of the EFL Cup semi-final in the game which they were by far the better side at Stamford Bridge. Right, Sean Dyche is Nottingham Forest's 3rd manager of the campaign after sackings of both Nuno Espirito Santo and Ange Postecoglou. The former Everton boss is coming under increasing pressure with both poor performances and results, but there will be plenty belief that at least makes awkward for the league leaders. But Arsenal will remain firm favourites, but to grind out yet another victory at the City Ground. But I'm going for Arsenal to win 2-0. And then Wolverhampton Wanderers are beginning to look as though they are finally improving as they now welcome an inconsistent Newcastle United to Molineux this weekend. The performances didn't appear to be improving, with narrow defeats against Liverpool and Arsenal, and now Wolverhampton Wanderers are beginning to be more positive after a 4-match unbeaten run across all competitions. ahead of this one. Rob Edwards' side shared a 1-1 draw with Manchester United at Old Trafford to round off 2025 before a 3-0 hammerings of fellow strugglers West Ham United, a 1-1 draw with Everton, and then 6-1 demolition of Shrewsbury Town in the FA Cup. Newcastle United have been inconsistent throughout this season since their turbulent summer transfer window. Just has appeared to be stringing results together. They're coming into this one on the back of a worrying and frustrating week, having escaped the FA Cup third round at FC Bournemouth by winning a penalty shootout after a 3-3 draw at St James's Park. The Tearsiders then suffered a 2-0 loss at home to Manchester City in the first leg of their EFL Cup semi-final in midweek. Wolves have become a lot tougher to beat, at least scored against them, but now Edward appears to have found something in terms of attacking patterns of play, but especially with the development and evolution of both Maintenance Mar and Jaguars. Newcastle will head down to the Midlands, fully expected to win, but it come at a tougher test than anticipated. But a couple of weeks ago, I'm going for Newcastle to win 3-1. And then on to the Villa Park. Most played fixture in the top 5 in English football gets another run out at Villa Park as the story Aston Villa take on the storied Everton on the Sunday afternoon. Unai Emery's Aston Villa are progressing well in the Europa League, are also now in the 4th round of the FA Cup after defeated Tottenham Hotspur by 2-1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the North London last weekend. The Villains remain just about involved in the Premier League title race, and they begins this weekend's round of fixtures, sitting 6 points behind league leaders Arsenal, and with the Gunners getting to play first this weekend. As for Everton, David Moyes have enjoyed a reasonably impressive opening 12 months back in charge of Everton, but the Toffees' form has dipped the last couple of weeks. They remain in the bottom half of the Premier League after 21 matches. The Merseysiders most recently suffered a penalty shootout loss to Sunderland in the 3rd round of the FA Cup last weekend, meaning they have now just one of their last 7 matches. This is exceptional that Aston Villa get drawn closer towards the battle for the top 4, top 5 and potential Champions League qualification rather than probably propel themselves into the title race this season. But their performances levels hasn't quite been as good as their results they have shown. Everton have been able to break poor runs of form completely out of the blue, and backing them to do so again. They may be a major gamble, but they may well be a wonderful worthwhile against the Villa side. They may seem to begin the priority things, but I'm going for Villa to win 3-1. And finally, Brighton against Bournemouth. Monday evening sees the South Coast derby in the Premier League as Brighton & Hove Albion welcome FC Bournemouth across to the Amex Stadium in Sussex. Brighton & Hove Albion are known for being a very inconsistent team, and the side that supporters have grown immensely frustrated by Fabian Hurtzler's side have begun to find some of their good form in recent weeks. The Seagulls coming into this one on the back of a 2-1 victory over Manchester United at Old Trafford in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, courtesy goals from Bryje, Grunder and Danny Welbeck. And FC Bournemouth have been endured an 11-match winless run until the Cherries dramatically defeated Tottenham Hotspur by 3-2, courtesy of that late Antonio Semenyo winning goal. The Ghana international has since departed from Manchester City in a big money move, and Bournemouth yet to replace most recently suffered a penalty shootout loss to Newcastle United after a thrilling draw in the Cup last week. Right, these are the 2 of my practice teams to watch in the Premier League, and with Brighton sneaking to dominate possession with the ball and Bournemouth looking to swarm any side with the intensity there. Pressing Brighton can often be too deliberate and to get caught, especially at home, or their desire for the ball may well play into the hands of the visitors. But so siding with the away team to continue around the corner, that they may well have announced would appear the way to go for this one. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. That's my predictions for Premier League Week 21 of the Premier League this weekend. Leave on your comments below and we'll see you in the next one. Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.